have invited eminent psychologist Dr. Manjula Sularia, who is a life skill coach come director, Prasanchatas Foundation, and it is an NGO promoting health, hygiene, and safety amongst children through sensitization, awareness, and education. Dr. Manjula Sularia is a Josh Talk speaker, a life skills coach, social entrepreneur, and she has trained and counseled more than 2 lakhs individuals. So, welcome to you once again. And we thank you for having agreed to engage this session on a very important theme, that is conflict management strategies. So, over to Dr. Manjula Sularia.
Very good afternoon to you, Dr. Sunil Dutt, and to all the participants. Okay, now just say the topic has been already revealed by Dr. Sunil Dutt that it is on conflict management. And so I was wondering that, how come we suddenly just, start talking about the management or the resolution aspect? It is so very essential that we should get some agenda, some, topic of discussion where we know, ki, yes, this is the issue. We need to have some topic of discussion, and we need to kind of get deeper into it. Ki, yes, maybe this is the situation where people get into a conflict, or they're not kind of willing to kind of listen to each other. Dekha jaye, that is what is conflict about, right? Where we are not kind of accepting each other's opinion. So to start with, I have a video here, right? So I'll be playing my video. In fact, it's a live episode, right? It was in the news as well. So it is a video in relevance to the situation faced by majority of you, because it is a real case from one of the colleges, one of the girls' college in Bhiwani, which is in Haryana, right? So, what was the episode? What was the situation? We'll get to understand only after we watch the video. So, first, let's watch out the video.
टॉप बैन, वेस्टर्न ड्रेस बैन, मोबाइल बैन। हाँ, अगर कॉलेज में पढ़ना है तो सिर्फ सलवार सूट या भारतीय तहजीब वाले कपड़े पहन कर आइए। ये तुगलकी फरमान सुनाया है भिवानी के आदर्श महिला कॉलेज की प्रिंसिपल अलका शर्मा ने। धमकी ये दी गई कि अगर कोई लड़की जीन्स टी शर्ट पहनकर कॉलेज आती है तो उसे न सिर्फ चेतावनी दी जाएगी बल्कि जुर्माना भी भरना पड़ेगा। प्रिंसिपल अलका शर्मा की दलील है कि उनके कॉलेज में भारतीय संस्कृति के मुताबिक पढ़ाई होती है, इसलिए छात्राओं को भारतीय ड्रेस ही पहननी चाहिए।
जीन्स और टी शर्ट्स के ऊपर तो बैन इसलिए है कि वो तो बिल्कुल वेस्टर्नाइज्ड है। शॉर्ट जो है, बच्चे सही तरीके से कवर नहीं होते, रास्ते में आते जाते बच्चे फिक्रे कसते हैं और उसके लिए पेरेंट्स को प्रॉब्लम होती है और हमारे कॉलेज प्रशासन को भी प्रॉब्लम होती है।
लड़कियों को लिमिट में रहना चाहिए, इसलिए उनको अपनी जो ड्रेस है उसको थोड़ा सा, जो ड्रेस प्रदर्शन जो बाहर से अपने घर से कॉलेज तक चल के आती हैं, तो जो सोसाइटी है उनको, जो लड़के हैं वो उनको इस नज़र से ना देखें कि इन्होंने इस तरह की ड्रेस पहनी हुई है।
कॉलेज प्रशासन के इस आदेश के बाद से छात्राओं में खासी नाराजगी है।
लड़की को अंदर से स्ट्रॉन्ग होना पड़ता है, पहनावे से आई थिंक सो कुछ नहीं होने वाला कि आप जींस टॉप पे रोक लगा दो।
हम आपको बता दें कि आदर्श महिला कॉलेज में न सिर्फ वेस्टर्न स्टाइल के कपड़ों पर पाबंदी लगाई गई है, बल्कि यहाँ लड़कियों के लिए मोबाइल लाने की भी मनाही है। सवाल ये उठता है कि इस तरह की बंदिशें क्या छात्राओं की निजी आजादी पर हमला नहीं है?
Okay, so Naresh sir, you want to say something? Your hands raised there.
The order itself is actually a part of conflict, right?
Exactly, right, sir.
The conflict is between the management and the stakeholders, the students.
Right, definitely.
And the reason behind the conflict, what I could see it from here is,
right,
the need of the stakeholder is not being distinguished at this moment. And whenever this kind of a scenario is there, the need are not being distinguished. We are actually going to be the part of the conflict.
Definitely. Perfect. So that's really very insightful that you've shared, that when the needs of the stakeholders are not kind of distinguished, or they're not kind of well addressed, then definitely there are more reasons for the conflicts to kind of, hike there. So this video is a real life episode from one of the government girls college in Bhiwani, which is situated in the state of Haryana. So now particularly, like this was an order passed by the college principal where she says that now from onwards, the girl students, as it was a girls college, they'll not be permitted to wear any of the western dresses, because the principal and the management of the college firmly believe that this was a college being run on the the principles of the Indian tradition and the Indian values, right? So they felt that as it is, if the girls were wearing western dresses, this was kind of boycotting the Indian traditions. So they had put a complete restriction on the girls wearing any sort of western attire, which was particularly in which jeans were not allowed for the girls to be worn to the college. And then simultaneously, in continuation to this the orders placed by the principal, there was another kind of an order which said that the girls were not even allowed to carry their mobile phones to the college, because that was becoming a distraction for the students and they were not able to concentrate on the studies. And this same point of view was kind of further was supported by the college teachers as well. They also said that this is a college which kind of primarily emphasizes on the Indian value and tradition. So if the girls are not kind of abiding by the same, then that's wrong. And moreover, if girls were dressed up in western attires, they were somewhere and inviting the outside the boys to get attracted, and then there was more of a distraction towards each other, because of which they were not concentrating on the studies. But in lieu of the same, as Naresa said, the stakeholders, that is primarily the people who were being most impacted by this decision, that is the students, the girl students, they were really kind of upset with this decision. In fact, they had kind of got into a retaliation, and some of the girl students came forward and said that this was not in they were just not in favor of this decision, and they as it is to support their point of view, they said that if in case anybody has to get into teasing, has to kind of bully those girls, they would do it in any sort of attire that they're wearing. Somebody who has those wrong intentions would not just kind of be restricted only to those girls who are wearing western dresses or jeans. But if somebody has kind of an intention to create a problem or to trouble the girls, they would even do it even when they're wearing those Indian salwar kameez or a suit there. So now this was the point of view kept by the girl students. Who is to be blamed? Whom do we think that was um, absolutely irrational in their decision, or somebody who was not kind of wise enough? you know uh, who is to be blamed, or is it that the situation could be handled in a better way? What has been your takeaway? What has been your inference from it? So I think that if we just kind of get into the blame aspect, as it is, we'll not reach to any consensus or any resolution, right? There'll be more aggravation of the conflict. So definitely we have to look deeper into the common need or something which can be resolved on a mutual level. All of us have a different way of looking at things, right? Now here the decision was absolutely and solely taken at the management, at the institutional level. The principal took up a decision. The principal must have been kind of been surrounded by a committee or more people from the management, and collectively they must have taken up a decision. But now, before taking up such a decision, do we think they had to consider somebody else also? Did they miss out upon kind of involving somebody? Whom did they kind of forgot to involve in their decision making process?
Students, naturally.
The students, yes, right. So now we really need to I mean, as what was shown in the video, individuals who were the most impacted by this decision were the students, right? Whatever the institution, the management and the teachers kind of took up a decision, the ones who had to kind of forego or who had to be applying the outcome of this decision were the students, and they only were not involved in the discussion, in the decision making process, right? Student representatives should have been involved in it. Now, coming back to the students, after once the decision has been taken up, they are already kind of bubbling with that rebel, and they are not just in acceptance of the decision. So what the students are giving as a justification, where they say that somebody who is having those wrong intentions would even kind of come up with it for anybody who's even dressed up in an Indian attire. Does that make sense, or is it that students are absolutely illogical or irrational in their point of view? Because somewhere we have heard the students here.
Yes, ma'am. They are also having their own choices, their own opinions. So such restrictions, students won't accept. So there has to be
They won't
certain
accept.
midway. And again,
True,
today in today's world, when the freedom and all that much talking about this,
true,
so the freedom
true.
of choice is there, freedom of expressing your opinions are
Yes,
there, and such
yes,
restrictions won't be welcome by the
true,
students. So it will
true.
again result in the conflicting situations and similar to that.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you so much. That was very meaningful what you said, right? That today, in today's scenario, where I think each one of us, we so much kind of, we value this freedom, freedom of expression, freedom of, practicing our own choices. And especially when we talk about this present generation of the youngsters, right? They are more kind of, uh, what they value the most in their life is their personal space and their personal opinion, right? Where they're not much willing to kind of be pressurized or being compelled by. Of course, there can be better ways of convincing them, making them understand that what is the purpose of it. Now we've kind of got into the situation. We've visualized the situation that there was a kind of a difference of absolute difference of opinion prevailing between the college management and the students point of view, right? So why, I mean, they were not, where was the gap prevailing? Of course, one is that in the decision making process the students were not involved, the student representatives were not involved. Was there any other gap also? Was there any other misunderstanding prevailing?
Communication gap, generation gap.
Communi- Communication gap and generation gap. Wonderful, yes. So as it is, yes, these were kind of three different generations which were involved in this whole situation. The principal, being little elderly, came from a different generation, then were the teachers, and then definitely the students, right, who had to actually kind of, they were the ones on whom this decision was to be implemented, right? The beneficiaries or the victims of the decision, whatever we say, right? So three different generations and the communication gap, right? So as it is, the three different entities, maybe the teachers and the college management, they were still in kind of discussion mode, or they knew what was happening. But the students, it was absolutely an element of surprise, right? Again, apart from that, all that communication gap and generation gap, were we kind of getting deviated from some main agenda, main purpose of this whole decision, because of which that misunderstanding was prevailing? What was the real purpose of this decision? Why did the college management take up something as disciplinary, as resort to something as strict and disciplinary as this? It was to protect the students. Yes, now that was the real purpose, that was the real agenda, the safety of the students, right? Which maybe was not communicated to the students, right? As it is, they were not involved in the discussion or the decision making process. And maybe the students were also not realizing it, right? They themselves were not kind of understanding what was the sensitivity or what was the need of taking up such a decision. Now if we talk about the safety, where somewhere now we've come to that that total understanding that what was the purpose of this decision, which proved to be too harsh or too strict to the students. Can we now think of some alternative ways of reaching out to that purpose, which is safety of the students? Can there be some alternative ways to kind of resolve the problem scenario, where there were some outsiders who were kind of creating safety threats to the students, or who were becoming a problem to the girl students? So how can this situation be handled in a more effective way?
Yeah, we may ban the entry of the outsiders in the campus.
Okay, right. So somewhere that ways we are making our campus foolproof, right? So there are no outsiders kind of coming in, or they're not barging into the protective environment of the college. Great. Anything else, or there can be any other ways to kind of ensure safety and protection in the campus, or maybe outside the campus as well. Okay, Jaya ma'am has written, first address the importance of proper dressing. Okay, so Jaya ma'am, that means we have to somewhere sensitize, or maybe we have to somewhere, instill that kind of the the real objective that yes, when you're coming to your college, which is an educational institute, there is a dire need to follow a proper dress code, right? Which as it is instills that kind of that emotion, that responsibility of being a student. I think this is a very very a common problem scenario, that most of our youngsters are not able to differentiate that every situation, every place has a proper dressing code according to your the responsibility that you've taken up. So if you are into the role of a student, then definitely you have to fit into it, all effectively, that yes, your all focus has to be primarily towards your academics, or towards your other extracurricular development. Apart from that, where we kind of get distracted or deviated into the fashion or the trends around, right? So I think that proper dress code, and why is it required, right? What is the need? Why is it that you have to kind of abide by a certain dress code when you are in your education institute? Similarly, this goes on when you become a professional also, or maybe there'll be an entirely different dress code when you're going for a party, or any other kind of friends hangout, right? So then that is where they have to kind of differentiate. Okay, so that was another way where we have to instill that sensitivity, that awareness amongst the students. Anything else, any other way that we could take up this agenda in a more appropriate way, where we ensure safety and protection within the campus, and of course even outside also, especially restricting those bullying and hooligan activities by the outside students, or outside people.
Teaching the girl students certain education might be given to them regarding how to take their safety or something like that, or
Okay,
how to
okay.
handle such issues
How
regarding
to
bullying
handle.
and all.
True,
So certain
true.
education might be given to the girl students.
To the girl students, right? Wonderful, Kamini ma'am. So I think we can even call it like certain self defense education, where
Yes,
how to,
yes.
yeah, how to defend yourself under such threatening and difficult situations. Okay, so that's another way of handling this situation. Great. I'm still looking for some one another input, which I still could not get it from. Yes. So anything, I hope they're not missing out.
Why not we can emphasize humanity to the students?
Okay, right, Arun sir. I'm really glad to hear that this terminology, humanity. So would you like to elaborate it a little bit, sir? I mean,
Actually,
how do you want? Yeah.
when we are thinking about others life also very much important, means definitely we will reduce making conflict with others. So in that
Perfect.
way we have to
Yes.
educate our students humanity level also, higher level. That is very important, I think.
Great. So then you say that this humanity aspect has to be taught to whom? To our girl students, or to somebody else?
Both
Both.
boys,
Who's the other one, sir? Who's the other side?
both boys and girls.
Boys and girls. Now, that's something very important, sir. Yes, the boys who are not the students of the college, right? But then they are the ones who are the main source of all the problem.
Yes.
They are the problem creators, right? I think now this is something which maybe this whole discussion and this whole decision taken up by the college management, they are missing upon that. the girl students who have been suddenly, imposed all those restrictions, and they've been told that yes, you need to follow a certain dress code, and simultaneously you're not even allowed to carry your mobile phones. But we need to realize that they are not the culprits. They are the ones who are already being victimized by some outsiders, right? And in lieu of the all the abuse, the all the kind of exploitation that they are undergoing, they are the ones who have been kind of enforced with more disciplinary implications. So I think this is something where we are absolutely going wrong. The ones who are the problem creators, that means there has to be those strict implications that such kind of, outsiders who are nowhere related to the girl students, or who do not have any specific agenda to enter into the college premises, they should not be allowed, right? We need to instill that, special skills of self defense amongst the girl students. As it is, these students, they need to kind of, understand the importance of proper dressing. But then definitely we need to reach out to those real hooligans, those real culprits, who are the problem creators as well. I hope now this discussion seems to be a little more foolproof, and we've taken into all the perspectives, all the the related kind of issues in relevance to this one problem, where it is the safety problem, or maybe the concern where it is the safety and protection of our girl students. Okay, narrator writes strict laws to be implemented in letter and spirit, just as in case of ragging. Perfect, sir. Definitely, it has to be brought on the paper also. Then only, yes, things would be more formal, and they'll be more taken up in a more serious way, right? Then only there'll be an implication of it, because majority of the times when it is only just verbal, or it's just conveyed through words only, then maybe people don't take it seriously also. But then yes, they have to be strict norms, they have to be strict laws, and they have to be some acts of punishment as well for such people who are creating problem around, that if they kind of take up any such indisciplinary act, what is going to be the next punishment for them, or how are they going to be kind of taken up very seriously. So that has to be definitely I think not just in maybe documents and files, they have to be published all over the boundary area of the college, and even in the vicinity of the college, right? So that people who are entering into that area also, they know ki this is somewhere a complete security or maybe safety prone area, right? And if anyone resorts to anything unethical or unwanted, then there is going to be a strict disciplinary or punishment in lieu of the same, and you're not going to be taken up easily, right? So I think now we can formally say that we've kind of taken up all the aspects to this matter of concern, which somewhere was becoming a conflicting situation, but we seem to have resolved it in a better way. How come we could resolve the situation and not make it a more of a matter of conflict or chaos? How did we dealt with it in a better way, leading to some mutual resolution and not much more an agenda of debate or absolutely conflict building up around it? How come we were able to resolve it in a better way? How did this get possible just now? We have to first reach up to some mutual analysis of the need, understanding what is the need of the students, what is the need of the teachers, and definitely the college management. And then when we reach up to a mutual, in fact, mutual consensus cannot happen without that expression, right? So I think what we were just right now doing is that we all were expressing our point of view, and that's how we were not just expressing, we were even accepting each other's point of view also, right? We were even listening to each other. I think even on this screen also, none of us kind of got baffled or got anxious that no, 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 this is my point of view and you need to just listen to me only, right? Which majority of the times it happens like that only, that we'll be very very adamant about our point of view. Now this is my personal opinion, this is my personal choice, and I want it to happen like this only, right? And then where I am not listening, I mean I'm not willing to listen to anybody, then situation becomes much more chaotic or all the more conflict. The decision has to be somewhere taken back, right? And now we have to restart, where all the people involved into it, whether it is the the girl students, or those, those, I think those bullies outside the college territory also, maybe they have to be also included, and they also have to be instilled that sensitivity on humanitarian grounds. They also need to be sensitized that how come they are becoming a problem to the to the other girl students, and somewhere based upon that, uh, counseling and that personal discussion, we'll be able to resolve this situation in a better way. Okay, now I am carrying a PPT also, just to kind of recap what we discussed, or in case if we missed out something. First and foremost, in fact, we've done a complete analysis of a situation which could have somewhere ended up into a conflict, but we somewhere kind of, we were conscious, and we managed it in a much better and an effective way, such that we could resolve it rather than kind of, aggravating it into a conflicting situation. But before that, which should have been in the first instance, what do we understand by a conflict? कॉन्फ्लिक्ट होता क्या है, बिकॉज हमारा जो टोटल एजेंडा है डिस्कशन का वो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट रेजोल्यूशन पे है. हमने बल्कि एक तरह से एक केस स्टडी देखा भी, राइट, भिवानी कॉलेज का, एंड उसके रिलेवेंस में हमारा डिस्कशन भी हो चुका है, सबने अपने पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू शेयर किए हैं. लेकिन अब मतलब जब हम सब कुछ कर चुके हैं, उसके बाद व्हाट डू यू फील पर्सनली, व्हाट इज अ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट, होता क्या है कॉन्फ्लिक्ट?
मिसअंडरस्टैंडिंग.
वंडरफुल मैम, वंडरफुल. आपको बताऊं, मैंने अपने जो कुछ बनाए थे पॉइंटर्स, उसमें यही एक वर्ड लिखा था, मिसअंडरस्टैंड. सो वी डोंट नीड लॉन्ग डेफिनेशंस फॉर इट. इट इज ओनली मिसअंडरस्टैंडिंग, राइट? So wonderful. And Sumit has written, perception of two different people are not same, there will be a conflict definitely when they are, kind of having difference of opinion, or they have a difference of perception altogether. When they are looking at, I mean, a similar situation from different point of view, then definitely, and then they are not willing to listen to each other, right? That's a conflict. Okay, let me take you to the PPT now. तो अब हम जब conflict की बात करते हैं, तो हम में से कोई भी, none of us we want to, be there in a conflicting situation. Conflict जहां पर वही बात है कि if I have to speak it in Hindi, जहां मन मुटाव है, मतभेद है, right, हम एक दूसरे की सुनना नहीं चाहते हैं, that is conflict, which again in English happens to be difference of opinion, misunderstanding, right? लेकिन इस वक्त जो हमारा मुद्दा है, the purpose of all of us being together on this screen is where we want to transform मतलब हम बदलना चाहते हैं, एक बड़ा बदलाव लेकर आना चाहते हैं. We want to transform this conflict into collaboration जहां पर हम एक संगठन बना रहे हैं, we coming together, right, and we are trying to kind of collaborate or get our efforts into a common direction, जैसे हमने अभी किया, just now what we did, where we kind of collaborated now that on the common need. The common need was the safety of the girl students. So once we've understood the common need, we can better, collaborate, and we can, kind of not get more into the debates and, kind of blame game, but rather, kind of come into that aspect where we are willing to listen to each other and accept each other. Now, this is a conflict, right? Whenever we move around with those, heavy eyes, or maybe eyes just bulged out, and with that, swollen nose, that is a conflict. Now, this is a situation of intra conflict. Have we ever heard about intra conflict? Or if I have to make it simpler, self conflict. We just saw that picture with those, bulged eyes. आपकी आंखें निकल कर बाहर आ जाती हैं, और आपका नाक पकौड़े की तरह फूल जाता है, that swollen nose, right? So ये जब भी चेहरा आपको अपना ऐसा चेहरा दिखाई दे, wonderful Jaya ma'am, that is the conflict within us, जो आपके अंदर चल रहा है, right? And majority of the external conflict, वो जो बाहर हमें दुनिया से नाराजगी है, or we are not willing to listen to anybody, we are not willing to accept people, we are not kind of able to collaborate with people, it is primarily because of all that, which is creating that anxiety, that confusion, that chaos, करूं या ना करूं, होना चाहिए या नहीं होना चाहिए, right or wrong. That is that intra conflict, which of course Kamini ma'am has also written, associated with negative thoughts. Sumit sir writes, unexpected happens with us. Yes, it is, unexpected or something which we are not prepared for, right? And just may sometimes it is like we don't do anything, but we only think about it, right? And sometimes this thinking becomes overthinking, and in that whole process we develop a complete, um, a bulk or a, a complete mass of those negative thoughts, or something which kind of baffles our thinking process all the more, and we are all the more gathered with this, anxiety, frustration, harassment, where we are not able to kind of believe in our own ideologies also, right? So somebody who is not having faith in himself or herself, will that person ever be able to trust anybody else? Now that's a question. Somebody who's lost the faith in himself or herself, somebody who's not able to, kind of have that faith, or have that, that trust in his own capacity, will that person be able to trust somebody else? No, it's not possible, right? So now when we talk about conflict, all conflict, in fact majority of the time, the conflict starts with yourself only, right? Where you yourself are doubtful. uh, Conflict is misunderstanding. Now misunderstanding prevails only because of all these reasons, because of doubt, confusion, chaos. And if we see to it, these all three different situations, majority of the times they stay back with us. Doubt, डाउट होना चाहिए, नहीं होना चाहिए, ठीक है, गलत है, that is doubt, and primarily it is self doubt, right? Confusion, I did not understand, I could not connect with the message, right? I could not connect with the person, I could not connect with the situation, and then there's a total confusion. And for chaos is jab, as it is, everything is out of control, we are not able to kind of fix our thoughts to something specific. We are totally kind of in a state of distraction, uh, out of focus, we're not able to concentrate, we're not able to think, that peace and harmony, then that's that total state of confusion. And primarily these are the bigger reasons for that conflict which is prevailing around, because we don't have that faith in ourselves, and then it gets more difficult to trust somebody else. In fact, let me take you back to the presentation once again. I Now these are there are these two people sitting on a discussion table, where they have kind of come together to kind of resolve a conflict, right? Now how do they get into the discussion, and how does the conversation go? So the person on the left hand side says, okay, whatever you agreed on last week, we disagree on this week, but we can see next week if we still agree on what we disagreed on this week. Now the person on the right hand side says, well, I agree to disagree on what we disagree to agree, just as long as it is agreed that we agree to meet again to try not to disagree. I do not know if you agree or not. So now, as I said, this is how a conflict starts. False conflict, that maybe where there is no agenda, only for a conflict, but just because we could not understand, there was a misunderstanding, and that's how conflict started. Now that slide which I had just read out to all of you, I really believe that we could not understand anything. But then, were we able to hear something repetitively? Agree and disagree, these were the two words which were being repeated time and again. Now now this is the main start or the initiation of a conflict. Manu ya na manu, accept karu ya na karu, do I agree or do I disagree, right? uh, there are, I mean, that's what, like, as we've just talked about, that a conflict is primarily about difference of opinion, about, difference of perception or misunderstanding. Now where does this misunderstanding come from? Misunderstanding comes from here only, where somebody who has a difference of opinion, who does not think like me, who has a difference, in their understanding, their ideologies, their information, and when they are giving back that information to me, I am not willing to agree, or maybe I'm still confused whether manu ya na manu, whether I should agree or I should disagree, right? And in that whole process, just because I'm still doubting, I'm still in disagreement, I'm still confused, now that's how things keep propagating, keep becoming more bad, and then eventually something which was not a matter of, Kamini ma'am, as you said, not a matter of maybe conflict, also became conflicting. because I was not able to give that 100% acceptance. I was not able to give that 100% confidence, and just because of which, where it created more chaos, more of that that confusion prevailing. The two people, they were speaking and they were not listening, right? And they were, even if they were listening, they were only listening to what they wanted to listen to. वही सुन रहे थे जो वो सुनना चाहते थे, right? So there, this is something which is normally when we do these communication sessions, we do this selective and filtered listening. Now, can we throw some light on what do we understand by selective listening?
Listening to what we actually enjoy, what we actually want.
Exactly. Exactly, right. So in fact, I think that will be more close to filtered listening, right? When I am saying something, like normally, we put up an application to our HOD or to our principal, asking for a leave, right? And when immediately after we put up the application, the HOD or the principal calls us to his office, right? His or her office. And then even when the other person is saying something, we might not be at all interested in listening, or we might not be at all focusing on what the person is saying. But all the time we would be just kind of fixing our focus where the word leave sanction comes in, right? So now that's what you said, what we just want to listen to what is of my purpose, what is my in that what am I going to benefit out of it. So that's kind of, we put filters, or we put we become selective about it. Catching the point what we want, right? So selective is that there was a whole discussion happening, maybe a 30-40 minutes discussion, but I could hear only that point of view, or only those discussions which were related to my benefit, which was something of my area of interest. So that's how I get selective about it. Okay, let me share a small story with you. Now this story comes from our mythology, right? Mythology of Ramayana. Now going back to those Ramayana times, this was when Ravana had taken along goddess Sita, right? And after that, like Lord Rama was really anxious, and he was searching for, Sita, Mata, goddess Sita everywhere. And that time, we all know that it was Hanumanji and his, team of monkeys who had joined in along to help Lord Rama in searching of goddess Sita. So eventually, Lord Rama sends Hanumanji to Ravana's castle, and he says that now you are my messenger. You go there and give this message to goddess Sita that I'm around, I'm coming there, and I'll come and rescue you soon. So Hanumanji, who goes there as a messenger, and he knows what is the job is, right? He goes and meets goddess Sita, and he even tells her that Lord Rama is around your vicinity, and he will be soon coming to take you away from here. But eventually, after he delivers the message, Ravana comes to know that Hanumanji has entered into his territory, and he immediately he immediately orders, like that he should be Hanumanji should be brought to his the main arena where he sits and takes up his decisions. So when Hanumanji's got there, Ravana, just out of being a bully, puts fire on Hanumanji's tail, right? So as Hanumanji being a monkey, and for a monkey, it's a matter of pride. Your tail is a matter of pride. He feels very humiliated. He feels very embarrassed when his tail is put on fire. But out of that rebellious aspect, what he does is he starts flying around with his tail put on fire, and he burns the whole castle. The whole palace of Ravana is burnt around. So after that, Hanumanji flies back to Lord Rama, and when he reaches back to Lord Rama asks him, like by that time, that fire has also it has gone off, right? So Lord Rama asks him that how was your visit to the Ashok Vatika. There is where, goddess Sita was kept by Ravana. So he says that yes, Hanumanji tells Lord Rama that yes, I was able to meet goddess Sita and I even conveyed your message to her. But then eventually he even narrates the whole episode, that how his tail was put on fire, and then eventually out of all that agony, he burns the whole castle, and that's how he comes back and he takes a revenge, right? So Lord Rama is listening to him, and then he sees that yes, he's very anxious, he's very, he's kind of burning in agony. So he asks him, okay, that's good what you did, but now tell me, how was the place around Ashok Vatika? What did you see, and what colors, and so then Hanumanji gets a little confused, and he's like little zapped up, and he says ki, yeah, it was beautiful, there were a lot of flowers, there were a lot of trees, there were a lot of fruits, but the concern is that everything was red in color. There were red trees, there were red fruits, there were red flowers, everything was red in color. So then Lord curious that how come everything was red. He said, no, I'm very sure everything was red in color. So now throw some light, how come Hanumanji was able to see everything red in color? Why was that? Why did that happen?
गुस्से से आंखें लाल थी उनकी.
गुस्से से आंखें लाल थी. Actually, very true, Naresa. So he was burning out of agony, he was burning out of anger, right? And because of which everything that he saw around was like, he could see only red color only. But then that redness was not outside, that redness was within him. He was burning out of anger, right? And eventually what he could see outside was only what was, coming from within. And this is what happens. In fact, this is again connecting back to that intra conflict, where we are not able to trust people, where we are able to, maximum times we have doubts on others. We always have, that inhibition whether to tell them or not, whether when we are not able to connect with them wholeheartedly, then always, yes, there will be situations where we'll not be able to understand them, we'll develop some misunderstandings, and eventually, but then what we need to know is that this is primarily our personal weakness, our personal somewhere, concern, which needs to be rectified. So now actually formally, let me take you down from some, point of views which I could gather, together, understanding that yes, how we can resolve things in a better way. Naresa also writes, judgments and prejudice take us away from each other. So true, sir. So true. We don't realize the real situation, but primarily we would have our own judgments, our own prejudice, and because of which we only spoil the situation, right? We are more into those blames and allegations, and rather than kind of coming to any mutual consensus, we would just end up kind of contradicting, or absolutely, um, kind of making the situation more chaotic or more difficult to reach to some mutual understanding. So now coming back to the presentation, so we've already heard Lord Rama's and Hanumanji's episode. Now I think something which really goes in relevance is that yes, we all are carried away with those past judgments, grudges, prejudice. So it is so very important to be more alert, vigilant, and alert, vigilant, and attentive about the present situation, right? Where I think if I have to say it in Hindi, हमें ज़्यादा सतर्क, सावधान और सचेत रहने की ज़रूरत है, right? जहाँ पे वही चीज है कि what is happening in the present situation, which needs a lot of mental alertness and emotional awareness. Now when I say emotional awareness, we have to be aware about whose emotions, we have to be aware about whose emotions, mental alertness and emotional awareness. हमें किसके emotions के बारे में aware होने की जरूरत है?
Others,
Ours. Very nice.
as
Yes.
well as
Yes.
others.
As well as others, very true. But we have to start with ourselves, right? I think that face with those, popped up eyes and that swollen nose. So if you are going for a situation, for a, for a um, uh, something, where you have to resolve a conflict, or where you want to kind of come to a mutual consensus, if you are having those looks, that means as it is you're disturbed about something, there is some emotional turbulence happening within. And when you are not at peace, not at ease, you would create much more kind of, that the turmoil for the people around as well. So first of all, you have to keep up your mental peace and harmony, and then only you will be able to resolve things in a better way. Going back to the slide again. Yes. So look, listen, and feel. Please be connected to the present situation. What is the need of the present hour, present time, and not get carried away by the, in fact, I think this is where I wanted to, focus on the present. You cannot be carried with the, the past instances or episodes. Now this is where majority of the times, when we are going for a conflict resolution, we end up in conflict aggravation, right? Because we are too much surrounded with the past grudges, past instances, past misunderstandings, that even what the problem is in the present scenario, we would not be discussing that, but we would be discussing issues, from the way back, years together. You did this last time also, you were bad with me before that also, and I did not, trust you that time also. And that's how we end up just aggravating the situation rather than reaching up to some common consensus. And I think this is something which majority of the times happens amongst the couples also. So who gets along most of the past grudges, the wife or the husband? Who gets along most of the past grudges? Is it the wife or the husband in a married association?
Right.
Thank you, Kamini ma'am. That was very generous of you, right? Even Dr. Rekha also writes its wife. And believe me, wives or the women are not to be blamed for it. This is because our mental makeup is like that only. Our means as women, as females, right? In fact, there was a psychological survey on the mental makeup of a man and a mental makeup of a woman, right? So there were two brains, right? Brain of a man and a brain of a woman, and there was some agenda given to the same, the two brains, right? So after coming across that agenda, when it was the man's brain, one light lit up, right? There was one light lit up. That means some spark of ideas and information must have ignited that brain. But when that same agenda was presented to a woman's brain, there were multiple lights, kind of ignited, lit up. So that's what, because as women we always have this, kind of going back to the past and gathering information from the past scenarios, and that's how we, rather than kind of simplifying the things, we mostly complicate it, right? So, and that's why, yes, those conflict amongst the couples don't end up only. So I think as women we have to somewhere, rectify. We have to focus more on present, whether it is in our personal scenario or it is at the professional front also. We cannot be kind of discussing or too much, into the past. In fact, we should not. What is the present concern, present agenda of discussion, we have to fix our focus on to that only. Now this is something very 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 meaningful, in fact. Now what is more important, whether it is winning the argument or it is kind of, keeping up that association, keeping up that relationship? I think this is where majority of the times we go wrong. When we have that difference of opinion, when we have that difference of ideologies, majority of the times we are very very adamant, my point of view, my way of looking at things, my personal choice. And in that only we end up, really spoiling or absolutely ruining our associations, whether again it is at personal front or at professional front. I think this becomes more complicated where, in the personal front or at the professional front, where we are more adamant about, proving our point of view, rather than, yes, seeing to it that, yes, who is the person, or who is the yeah, winning an argument and we are losing the relationship. Now where do we do this blunder more often, in the personal front or in the professional? Yeah, I think, yes, Jaya ma'am, it is more in the personal, associations, right? It can be with the family also, it can be with the friends also, and even with those all companions and associations with whom we share more of a personal bonding, a personal connection, right? There we are more adamant, we are more rigid, we are more kind of, not willing to listen to each other. And that's the most, I think, sad affair. This is something which really really needs to be rectified. In that process only we lose our most near and dear ones. In fact, when we say about being respectful, I think in our professional scenario, we still keep it up. We still maintain that. We would still paste those false smiles and we would still say that all is well. But when it comes to our personal, journey or personal, experiences, then I think we are really bitter. We are really rude. We really misbehave also at times, what Mamta ma'am had said, right? And in that process we hurt them the most, who mean the most to us. So there, if we are able to prioritize, if we are able to kind of understand that what matters more, is it winning that argument, or is it kind of maintaining or kind of retaining that person or that association, I think we'll be able to you know counter such situations, such conflicting situations, in a better and a more harmonious way. Pick your battles. Now, pick your battles is something very, very interesting, and something which majority of the times people don't know, how to be selective, how to keep up their personal peace and harmony, and not every time get into an issue of debate and confrontation. So, how do we become selective? How do we realize, or how do we understand that maybe right now this agenda does not need my intervention? Pick your battles, being selective, because every agenda will not be a matter of your personal, means it should not affect your personal peace and harmony. If it is doing that, then actually you are kind of ruining your state of harmony, and you are creating more chaos and problem for yourself. So how do we become selective, whether this is an agenda of me to be taken up or not? Priority with relationships, yes. I think that's I mean, a very smart way of dealing with the situation, that whether this relationship needs my time and energy or not. And if it does not, then yes. Agenda, okay, Sumit sir writes, agenda which help my relationship being better. Okay, so if you think that this agenda needs to be addressed, right, then and especially which would help you to enhance your association with your relations, then okay, you need to address it. So I think here we are prioritizing, or we are differentiating between what is to be addressed and what is to be ignored. Everything cannot be a matter of your concern. You have to really, really look into it, right? I think this is what many people end up doing at times, and that's why they are always in the hit list of majority of the people, right? Wherever is there is any difference of opinion, wherever there is any kind of a debate going on, people would always like, there'll be some special category of people who would always like to get into it and prove that they are the ones who are the most knowledgeable, who are the ones most well versed, and that's how they kind of but then eventually in that process they become a kind of a person who's not much welcomed by people around, because he would always be in a conflicting situation, he or she would always be in a conflicting situation. Okay, now I was talking about people who are really well versed, well experienced, well informed, or somebody who's really who would say as a wise human. So what is the best identity of a wise human? Any one peculiar identity in relevance to conflict resolution? What do wise people do in majority of the conflicting situations? One who cares for mind peace. Very nice, Virul, ma'am, right? So basically you are primarily focusing or emphasizing on your personal state of peace and harmony, right? There, nothing should affect, nothing should be as important, which primarily kind of targets your personal peace. If it is happening, then you are actually doing all the injustice to yourself only. So how do we keep up that personal peace? What do yes, practically we do to keep up, to maintain that personal peace? Meditation, okay. In a conflicting situation, ma'am, what would you do? Let it go. Naresa, let it go. Now that's a big actually, what would I say, a big time achievement, right? Majority of us are not able to let it go, and especially when I know I am much experienced, I know much more than that other person, I can kind of handle it better, or I can prove that other person wrong. How would I let it go? What do I do? go into others world. Okay, that means we get more empathetic, right? And when we get empathetic, okay, Virul ma'am writes self consciousness and not to get into conversation, so that means we kind of ignore or we remain silent at that time. Okay, empathy is what Naresa writes. Dr. Rekha writes, try to be selective listener. Okay, so if it is not my matter of concern, I'm not listening only, right? I close my ears there. Now if I want to let it go, I want to not get into in any further debates or discussions, or I want to keep up my mental peace and harmony, I should be, and especially if I'm somebody more knowledgeable, more experienced, I should be willing to forgive. सबसे बड़ी जो एक काबिलियत, एक सबसे बड़ी जो एक क्षमता हम कहते हैं, एक पोटेंशियल ऑफ समबडी हु इज कंसिडर्ड टू बी वाइज, जिसको हम समझदार सुलझा हुआ इंसान समझते हैं, वो उनमें सबसे ज्यादा जो कूट कूट के भरा होता है, दैट इज क्षमा भाव, right? They forgive. They would not always, they would in fact never keep those, that emotion of, yes, that I have to, yes, they will not keep any grudges, or yes, that I have to take a revenge, right? So they'll not be revengeful, in fact. That's, yes, Virul ma'am, you even supported my. So they'll be really forgiving, right? So they know that. How come they can forgive? Okay, in fact, I was just clarifying my point of view, but any one of you who wants to kind of elaborate it further. So, okay, wise people have a heart full of love, compassion, and forgiveness. Yes, but how is it now? How do we enhance our ability of forgiveness? And especially if you're somebody wise, if you're experienced, how is it possible for experienced people to forgive? How do they do that? By moving on from the situation? Not possible always. Okay.
And we write the things in a bit of paper and cut it into small pieces. No, we can be free from that
Okay.
topic.
That topic. Okay, lovely. So now this is like we write that, that concern, that problem situation on a piece of paper, and then cut it into, I think, cut it strong, right? Cut in maximum number of pieces so that you cannot get them together again, right? Divert your mind. And I think there was something written here also in our chat box as well, that was like being empathetic and going into others world. Now, how do we get forgiving? We get forgiving by being empathetic and by being more accepting. These are the two very, very big time qualities, and only people with large heart can do it. Actually, it is definitely, it's something very, very difficult. But then how do we become that large hearted, or how do we become that empathetic? Is, and we start accepting others with all their flaws, is first and foremost is that you're, as it is, somebody experienced. Now, experienced people who have seen life much more from every perspective, from every angle. So what experienced people do the best is that they don't lose their self control on petty issues. They would not get intolerant on little things. They would not just give up, oh, I don't want to listen to you. They would always be more patient, they would always be more tolerant. And then they know that this other person who's just maybe new in their experience and new in their journey, he or she has their own kind of share of making mistakes. So we would not lose our temperament. As wise people, you would never lose your temperament on small petty issues, because what is most important for you is your peace of mind. And then you, as it is, give that freedom, that openness to others to, yes, maybe go wrong at times, commit mistakes, yes, may not prove themselves to your expectations. But then, since you are somebody more experienced, you're more well versed, you would always give them that time. Okay, go again, repeat the process, come back with your own learnings. And when you are much more experienced, then maybe you will kind of understand that, yes, every time it's not just about how fast or how promptly you take up, or maybe in that process we majority of the times we get reactive. So as experienced people, we are more responsive, right? We don't react, but we respond to situations, right? And then we would always be more empathetic, we would be more accepting, we would accept the people the way they are, we will accept them with their flaws also equally. And husband wife are the two conflicting entities, and their conflicts would never come to an end, and I think that's how the journey goes on, right? So situation where a husband and wife were too much into conflict, in fact all the while, right? So the wife was really kind of fed up, and she decides to go to a psychologist, and she goes to a psychologist and she tells that, look, doctor, my husband keeps fighting with me all the while, and I don't know what to do with him, so please, kind of prescribe some medication or some, kind of remedy for it. So the psychologist is listening all the while, and eventually he says that whenever next your husband fights with you, you start drinking water. And on this, the woman gets more anxious, and she's really kind of fuming with, all that anger. She says, the problem is with my husband, and you're giving a solution to me. He says, please ma'am, the doctor says, please ma'am, listen to me, you just, abide by what I'm telling you. Whenever next your husband starts fighting with you, you just start having water, and just come back to me after a week. If this does not kind of resolve your purpose, we'll try to come with something else. She goes back, but she goes back all, kind of very dissatisfied, very disappointed with the doctor, because she did not find a solution to her problem. But then still she was, kind of curious that why did the doctor tell this. So she still starts trying. So next time when the husband was really, kind of on and on with his arguments and, debating around, she starts having water. And after 1 week, she goes all happy and really, really excited about it, and she goes back and she tells to the psychologist that yes, this started working. So now it's like within a week only, I feel my husband has started argumenting less, but I don't know how did this happen, because whenever he used to start debating, I used to start having water, and gradually after a week I see he does not argument much. But I do not know, I still am clueless that how did this happen. So any one of you would like to throw some light, how did this happen? How did this work out?
While drinking water, she remained quiet.
So yes, because she was remaining quiet, she was not further adding more fuel to the argument. That's how, things got resolved at an early stage. And I think that is as simple. You really need to know when you need to let it go, right? I mean, every time we don't have to prove and we have to justify that, yes, I am right and you are wrong. So I think this was a small little interaction that we could have about, conflicting situations, why conflicts happen, how conflict gets started, and how do we reach to a, some mutual consensus, and specifically focusing on this aspect that no matter what matters the most is your peace of mind. So you have to be, at ease with yourself. You have to keep up that peace and harmony with yourself. And I think when we have this less of self conflict or intra conflict, we are able to respond to any sort of situation better. So that's all from my side.